Attack on Titan. Do you remember how you felt during episode 1? What were your thoughts? I remember that I was immediately drawn in by the feeling of the calm before the storm, created by the dialogues and the false safety promised by that huge menacing wall surrounding everything, in contrast to, well, you know what happened a few minutes later. A true emotional roller coaster. And I of course fell immediately in love with the architecture, reminding me of those old German town centers you can find everywhere here where I live. Many have tried and succeeded to recreate that, with Stan616 leading the way building Shiganshina in Minecraft, which took him weeks if not months.
65 plus days!
I do not have the time for that, but what we are going to do today still took me hours upon hours, don't get me wrong. Hi there, my name is Marki Sparki and today we are building Shiganshina from Attack on Titan in Tiny Glade. Because I think we can use the cottagecore vibe of the game to our advantage here. Before we start though, if you enjoy this video, please hit that like button to show me that the hours I have spent on this were worth it. Also, consider subscribing. It would mean the world to me and help me and my channel out a lot. Thank you, I appreciate it. In Tiny Glade we only have this tiny space to work with, therefore I wanted to start with the walls, kind of maximizing the area that we have inside to build the city. Also to get the shape of Shiganshina done first. I started with those rectangular building pieces without roofs and used them to draw the wall. For the straight parts I could snap them together, but the curved bits are a bit more difficult. Here I had to improvise the curvature. I think the shape turned out quite good though. It is a bit too flat right there, but we will fix that later, don't worry. So far I used the maximum height of one building for the wall. This is not at all high enough though, as the wall is supposed to be 50 meters high.
That wall's 50 meters high!
And your average 3-story house is at maximum 10 meters high? If I'm wrong, correct me down in the comments. However, the scale of the whole city will be very different in here anyway. So 2 building segments stacked on top of each other to form the wall should be fine, comparing them to some exemplary houses. Yeah, that looks about right. I then finished up the basic wall shape like that and then added those sticky outy bits right here. I added them exactly where the building parts of the wall connect to hide that vertical line that this creates. On the back wall this wasn't as easily possible though, as I didn't know that I would do it that way when I placed the wall in the beginning. The back wall pieces were not symmetrically placed, so I had to move all of them. I then could add the additional segment onto that wall bit as well. I then finished up the front. And there we go. This doesn't look that bad already, doesn't it? Next I wanted to create that canal on the right. Funny thing is, this creates ducks that throw off the whole scale of everything. I wanna have some chibi titans in here now. I tried to replicate those arches where the canal goes through the wall with in-game walls. That worked out nicely. And let's do the same thing on the other side. Good thing there are no swimming titans, right? Or are there? While I will use paths for the rest of the city, next to the canal I wanted to have an actual stone floor. And then there are those bridges over the canal with high towers. There are 4 of them in the anime version of Shiganshina. I decided to build only 3 because we do not have that much space inside the walls. Lovely! And now we can start to build the first houses close to the wall. Oh, there are already houses there. Whoopsie! Let's wind back a second and start over. I wanted to have houses built onto the wall. I don't think this is done in Shiganshina, but I know for a fact that this is done in the city the Attack on Titan creators drew a lot of inspiration from. And that is Nördlingen, a small city in southern Germany. This place is simply amazing with a fully intact city wall and all the cozy half-timbered houses you can wish for. I took these pictures when I visited this place this summer, by the way. Anyway, here are these tiny little houses built onto the wall. And this is what we are building right here in-game as well. I then decided to add doors to the towers of the bridges so that you could actually walk from one side of the canal to the other, and a few windows as well. And even more houses built onto the wall right there. Look Look at that, this looks awesome. And I think the height of the wall actually looks really good like this. Definitely not as high as they appear in the anime, but given the size of the city, they are proportionally shrunken down. I am very happy with it. There we go, this is the state our tiny Shiganshina is in now. Next up, the Barracks. This huge white building towers over all the other houses, comparable in size with the height of the wall itself. It is located roughly here, somewhere, and it's basically 3 squares stacked on top of each other with round towers on all the corners. Let's build it right there. Yeah. I think this is the perfect location for it, given, again, the shrunken down size of the city we are working with right here. Let's add all the towers, windows and decoration bits to it. Also, I took some creative freedom with the top bit of the building, but here we go! Next, I wanted to add the gates leading into the inner area of Wall Maria, and on the other side to the outside. And with this I also added the paths, so basically the layout of the city. This will be changed a bit here and there later though. Also the placement of the front gate is super bad, I will fix this. Just you wait. But doesn't that look great? At this point I was already imagining how the final build will look like. Do you? I guess now the big task of filling the city with houses starts. I wanted to have a few more segments where the houses are built onto the wall, as I did on the other side. Also, I wanted to keep the houses fairly simple and small, like roughly 2 stories high, to keep the overall aesthetic intact with the barracks clearly sticking out. Look how cozy these little streets look like already. I also decided against putting extra towers and marketplaces with wells and stuff like that into the city, as we have very limited space, and I wanted the city to look as good as possible from the top. Too many eye catchers can ruin that. This didn't keep me from adding these little gardens here and there though. Those are not really visible from far away, and walking through the finished city is amazing with these details. And here you can see that I tried to follow the path layout we put down earlier with the orientation of the buildings. This really helps to sell the city vibe later on. It just looks so much better when you can clearly distinguish the blocks of houses by their orientation and by how they are grouped together. The clutter added randomly by the game is awesome, by the way. It is however very difficult to keep that at a minimum, to not have the streets between the houses completely filled with it. I had to click every single window multiple times, sometimes more than 20 times, to not have the streets completely blocked by a cart or having washing lines everywhere. And given the amount of windows and the time it takes to click every... let's not go there. This right here is a nice little spot that I am very proud of. I also tried to have some variety of colors and materials in the houses, sticking to mostly earthy tones though, with the occasional orange here and there. This way there is a variation, but it still looks homogeneous when looking at the city from a distance. I'm pretty happy so far, but there is still a lot of houses to be placed. This is a nice little square right here, and look at how many times I had to reset the window with its decorations to free up some space in the alleyway there. Let's add a little balcony to that house, and there you go. At this point I remember being tired from placing houses for hours. Let's speed through the rest real quick. Those houses there near the front gate will have to be changed soon anyway. Finally, tiny Shiganshina is filled with houses, and I am very happy with how this all looks and the feeling I get when looking at it. Oh look, a flying sheep titan. Despite how finished the whole thing looks like now, there's still a ton to be done, like lighting the city up, for example. For this, let's quickly turn the clock to nighttime. And as you can see, there are already a few lanterns lighting up the streets and alleyways. Let's add more. Unfortunately, I built this in a state of the game where only the last 32 lanterns placed actually light up. Therefore, you can see the light moving around the city while I place them down. This also means that we won't get a perfect shot of tiny Shiganshina at night. So sad. But I have been told that this 32 lantern issue will be fixed in the future. Anyway, back to daytime. We need a few trees surrounding the city. In the anime, there aren't as many trees, yes. But outside the buildable zone here in game, there are so many right there. And it simply looks weird having no trees next to that. I also added a bit of path next to the wall for a better transition from grass to stone. And now it is time to work on the gates. A simple wooden door won't do it. First, I added banners above the gate representing those huge ornamental stone crests that all the district's gates have. Then I added another part to the wall where the mechanics for raising and lowering the gates are located. Using a vertical building just barely sticking out of the wall, I could create the illusion of huge chains holding the gate up. I did the same thing to the front gate before realizing that I was not at all happy with the gate's off-center placement. It simply does not compare to the gate in the back, and this was not the standard I had set myself. It was finally time to fix the front part of the city and the location of the front gate. For this, I got rid of most of the wall bits, centered the gate, and adjusted the wall around it accordingly. This also meant that I had to redo parts of the buildings and paths next to the gate. And I am very happy that I did, because the result looks so much better compared to how it looked before. At this point, a new update to the game was released that gave me the new option to get rid of the crenulations on the walls. And so I did, as Shiganshina's walls are so big and the Titans are not really known for using bow and arrow or any kind of long-ranged weaponry, let's be honest, there is simply no need for those. This looks so much better, and we are getting close to being finished. Imagine being the colossal titan, looking over the wall just like that. Okay, one more important detail. Eren's house. I couldn't find an exact location for it, but from the scene of Eren's mom being devoured in episode 1, I would guess it is located somewhere right here? I choose this house right there to be transformed into the Jäger's family's house, as there is enough space to put a tree on the left, and there's also an alleyway in front of the house leading to the right. Let's get rid of those houses in the way first, and then let's recreate Eren's house with this little overhang, the 4 windows underneath, and the raised front door. Also, let's not forget about that tree. This is the only tree in the city now, which is a bit weird, but at least we know exactly where Eren's house is to be found. And all that's left to do is a few finishing touches here and there, and we are done.